Welcome to Synchronicity. We have a episode that I honestly didn't know if I'd ever record because it's pretty weird. We're just gonna get weirder and weirder because I get that I've been recapitulating a lot of topics, especially a lot of the Neville Goddard stuff, and I pull a ton of shit from Neville Goddard because he's a fucking genius and a saint for expounding and exposing just metaphysical realities that quite honestly I had studied and read and heard from other people, but never saw it and felt the resonant tone of it until him. So I'm eternally thankful. But here's the truth. Like, I do a lot of shit that Neville Goddard never spoke about, never mentioned. He came strictly from the Christian, mystic, Kabbalistic viewpoint. And that's why he uses terms like Father and God and the Bible a lot. And I love that shit, just to be clear. I'm not in any, I'm going to keep talking about a lot of it because it's fucking amazing and accurate and real. And he was so eloquent and persuasive and accurate about what was going on. And he taught me how to look metaphorically at things, or reminded me that that's how I was naturally perceiving things. But I'm going to start talking about stuff that I haven't read about, I haven't heard, and I've kind of just put together and synthesized in my own way. And what we're going to be talking about today are two of those ideas. And they're weird, right? I mean, they're weird in the sense that this is not how people, if the shit I'm going to say, if you heard from someone like screaming and ranting and raving on the street, you'd be like, yep, that's the appropriate context for that. That's where I should be hearing that because this shit is nuts. You wouldn't want to be hearing it from someone who seems like they have their shit together. And just to be clear, like, I'm totally comfortable saying this now. I have my shit together. So I know that for a fact, which is why I have the confidence to share some of the ideas I'm about to share. So I've spoken about this briefly on Twitter. I will be speaking about it more. And we're going to be breaking down essentially how to jump into various energies of deities and gods, and not unity God, but the gods, plurality, right? Whether we're looking in whatever tradition, Greek, Vedic, it doesn't matter, Buddhist, irrelevant. You can jump into whatever you want. So we're going to talk about how to do this, why this works, why one would want to do this, and just kind of break down like why I've been doing it, and shit is kind of the best. That's all I can say. Okay. And how I found out about it and experience. And I pressure tested the fuck out of this. This stuff is so weird that to speak about it, like sometimes I'll just get inspired by an idea and I'll be like, oh, yep, that's the whole idea. Now I just have to yak about it for 45 minutes and I'll get it all out. This was one of these ideas that I probably could have done that, but it wouldn't have come out in the way I intended it to because, I was just telling friends and it was like, all right, I'm doing this thing. And they're like, oh, interesting. Okay, so let's talk about jumping into God and energy and how this relates to the music of the spheres. Okay, what is God? Let's start there. What is this unified consciousness, this eternal Father, as Neville Goddard put it, or God, right? Source, universe, infinite consciousness. We've established on this show, on Synchronicity, that it is unconditioned awareness. It is this sense of I am. It is the awareness of knowing you are. That is God. That is the only God. It is the only God that will ever exist. But what does that mean in terms of personifying God? How do we do that? Well, as soon as we try to start personifying or break it down, we're moving into the world of plurality and duality. So there are multiple factors and they're intrinsically linked to each other. So the good and the bad are linked in duality, right? Happy and sad are linked. Are they? We have to look. I think, yeah, they're linked. All of these things have substance to them as well in duality. There is the union of physical matter and consciousness, and therefore it's created. So once we move into that realm, we've now fractured off from unity consciousness, God, unity, right? Which we still are. We're totally still that. That's the whole point. But we now live in a world of many different things. So we're going to go through how all of this connects basically. But once we're in the realm of plurality, we have polytheism, multiple gods. So what would be the function of God? Number one, a unity consciousness to incarnate as a person, as an individual. Now, we've covered that a little bit with the promise that you're doing it so you can wake yourself up and ascend to the level of God. God descends to the level of man, so man can ascend to the level of God. It's like a hide and seek. It's like an amazingly cool, awesome way to play hide and seek, basically. But as a part of that process, we also have the ability to create infinite gods. And this is what has happened. And this is the situation we find ourselves in. And if we choose to engage with it as such. So, what I mean by that is we are this eternal being, but we've also individuated this sense of whoever you are. I'm Noah, right? Nice to meet you. We have this, but we also have other aspects and laws of this material world that are in effect. And we call that science, things that we empirically test out and prove, which is how we prove the imagination creates reality, paradoxically, for people who believe in scientific materialism as their God. But anyway, deities also exist. They exist because the process is they all exist within us. That is not a conceptual truth. It's not an intellectual truth. It's not an aphorism that just sounds good. It's not like a fun platitude. It is true. They live within us. We project them out from outside of us. We usually forget that we're doing this. And so we say, oh, this God is doing this stuff. Dang it. Dang this God. And we're doing it. But we also have created actual deities. And more than just created them, we've given physical stars and planets attributes related to these gods. So we've essentially crucified these deities to celestial objects. And that's not as mean and as horrible as it sounds. They're actually totally cool with it because they recognize their consciousness and they can go in and out of people. And so this is where we factor in. So the first thing I would recommend is familiarizing yourself with gods and goddesses. Like whatever resonates with you, whether it's Greek, whether it's Nordic, whether it's Buddhist, whether it's what other ones do I love? Vedic. I mean, there's infinite South American. There's infinite gods and goddesses. There's hill gods. There's like gods for your like square foot of mile. There's chaos magic. Like, everything is a god. Everything is a god, and that's true. But let's just pick the good ones that we know are imaginally stable. So what I do is, as I've gotten more into astrology and been like, holy shit, like why is Saturn named Saturn? Why is Jupiter named Jupiter? Anyone who's gotten a reading from me recently knows this, is these are deities. These are planets, Roman names. So Jupiter is Zeus, right? And all the qualities associated with Zeus, and even before that, pre-Babylonian, all of this stuff are embedded in this concept, these archetypal realities, which are very, very real and drive this world more than we do with our conscious minds, unless we can connect those two. Then we're in the driver's seat. They exist. So the planetary placements in your astrological chart become very helpful for saying, oh man, like Zeus is here doing this. Oh, Aphrodite is here. Oh, and Neptune or Poseidon is here. So as you familiarize yourself with these states of consciousness and attributes associated with gods and goddesses, you have a decision. You can say, okay, well, this is primitive nonsense morons. These fools thought they were gods. What idiots. Oh my God. How could they? We know that it's atoms and particles and quantum mechanics. Well, let's not pay attention to quantum mechanics. That's too weird. But primitive Greeks, Pythagoras, this dummy. And so the original person to be like that, as far as I can tell, in the Greek tradition was Aristotle. And we'll get to that with the music of the spheres. And I've never I appreciate Aristotle. His metaphorical and allegorical role is to be that of the doubter, of the person who says, well, I don't see it, so I don't believe it. And it's like, okay, that's fair. You need to experience it before you do. And that's a good perspective to keep in mind. You shouldn't just jump in and believe shit because other people say it. So I get where Aristotle's coming from, but we'll get to that with the whole music of the spheres and how this connects to jumping into God energy. So anyway, as you're familiarizing, astrology is a really good way to do this because you'll see a placement of like Hermes on my ascendant in Leo, right? Mercury. That's what you'll see. Mercury is on my ascendant in Leo, which it is in my chart. That would indicate one who can understand, alchemize, and communicate concepts very quickly. That's fucking, I mean, like, listen, I'm not tooting my own fucking horn, but fucking reading about math today, I'm like, holy shit. It's fucking crazy. Yeah, that is, and I have a podcast, I have a platform, the vehicle on my midheaven points to this. It's like, oh, okay, fine, I got it. So, what I started to realize though, as I was reading other people's charts and having mine read, and for people who were doing archetypal astrology, I was like, oh my God, like the gods are real. Like they're absolutely real. This isn't some made up, bullshitty, fake thing. And you only identify with this concept if it serves you. If it doesn't serve you, disregard it. Noah's crazy. They're not real. Why would he say that? But if it does make sense to you and you start looking into it, you can start to figure out some other weird shit that's going on. And let's go into some other origin stories. And I think this is going to be the kickoff. I'm going to do a series on gods and goddesses, and it's going to be within Synchronicity. So it'll come out on this podcast, but we're going to focus episodes on just a few like one or two gods or goddesses and their mythologies and their energies. So I'll try to walk you through which energies I've been jumping in and out of and how to do that. We'll go over how to do it in this episode, and then we'll go over into the ones in the later ones. That's pretty cool. I'm fucking into that. Okay. So let's talk about Ceres. Ceres is a star. Is she an asteroid? She's something in the sky that we look at, and she's got a really cool like harvest insignia. She is pre-Dionysian. She is the harvest goddess. She is the celebration of the bounty of the fruit. And again, we can look at these in a variety of ways. We can look at them as personifications that she exists and she gives this. We can also look at them like psychological allegories. And Neville Goddard was really good about doing this with the Bible. They're each end of. Do you know what I mean? Like they're not one or the other. They're not mutually exclusive. So we can jump out of looking at them if that's as people and energies, if that's too difficult, look at them as psychological states one would give to. So if we hear harvest, the fruits of your labor, of what you're imagining, of what you have subjectively believed. And again, that's indifferent. It doesn't mean good or bad. But if we drill down into linear time, let's look at a little fun little LSD fact related to Ceres. Ceres is related to the harvest, especially of wheat. This is the point in the season when agriculture had been developed where you're harvesting what is going to be the food for the months that are coming ahead that would be cold if you were in a cold place. So you'd need to harvest these foods. If anyone who knows their etymology with LSD knows that it comes from ergot, which is a mold. And this mold grows on wheat. And one could say, oh, well, this is just this gross mold. But Albert Hoffman synthesized this particular mold, and he molded from this mold alchemical Space Jam placebo juice that has been giving people mystical visions for about, 61 years or so now. It's pretty awesome. So there's a connection with Ceres there, and I'm not the first to have made this connection in terms of the wheat. I think it was Terrence McKenna or someone has made these connections before, but there's all these little like cosmic winks when you start pursuing certain god and goddess energies. So okay, that's great. No, cool. Nice Ceres dive. I like that little LSD thread with the ergot and the wheat, because as the feminine comes back, the divine feminine, these goddesses are revealing themselves to people. And what that looks like is maybe we read something or hear something or watch something. We're like, oh my gosh, Ceres like is Dionysus, but she was before him. Like these goddesses are coming back and showing people who they were. And if you can like lovingly revere and identify with them, oh, whether you're a guy or a girl or wherever you on the spectrum, like, oh, buckle up. This gets fun. So here's what we do to jump into God and goddess energy. And here are the main ones I've been doing. So I have been jumping into, and some of them aren't even gods and goddesses, and they can be people, they can be whatever. The main ones I've been jumping in and out of, and I did this before I knew I was doing it, and then I consciously was like, oh, this is what I'm doing. Okay. Are Athena and Milarepa, and also Hermes, and sometimes Zeus. But those are the four, I guess, that I've been jumping into regularly. So what the fuck does that mean? First, I had to get familiar with all of those gods and goddesses. So I was somewhat familiar with Athena. but didn't really know who she was. I knew she was kind of like a badass, and that was it. But she's the goddess of owls. She's the goddess of the olive tree, and she's the goddess of snakes. And she is just like she is. She's a badass. She is girl power. She is fierce independence. She will get shit done no matter what. No one is fucking with her. That's Athena. And that is the climate in which we find ourselves energetically. If there was an overwhelming blueprint or energetic map that I think we're in right now, it is Athena. It is this hugely important aspect of the feminine summoning and rising to the top. And that's Athena. And she also is goddess of the olive tree, and that means the olive branch. So making bridges, connecting. So I have willingly jumped into that energy as it was appropriate to do so, and have lived from that place for as a state of consciousness. So in the same way that I would appropriate a state of fearlessness or clarity or wealth or whatever, you can do that with God and goddess energies. And you want to know why you're doing it, and you want to have an idea of, but you don't have to. This is just something you can do. And this is where I will step in and say, be aware of the faults and perils associated with each god and goddess. Gods and goddesses in Tibetan Buddhism, on the Buddhist wheel of the six realms, right? The deities and the devas and the sub deities, right? Because they're not actual gods. They're like gods and goddesses, then the demigods. Like they come with negative states associated with them, like jealousy and envy and greed. So if you stay in one of these gods or goddesses states of consciousness for too long, rest assured you will start to manifest those qualities as well. So that's why I say jump in and jump out as it serves you. So the first thing you do is you become familiar with all the qualities and factors that involve with a certain god or goddess. You can find mystics and saints who also are very good people to jump into. I like Milarepa. Milarepa was a Tibetan yogi. He was the first yogi trained in Tibet. His teacher Marpa had went, like all of the other yogis, to India to learn it, and then he came back to Tibet and taught Milarepa. And Milarepa, I think I've told this story before, but if you see any of my YouTube or Instagram stuff, you'll see the banner or the tapestry behind it of Milarepa. And he is a really, really interesting character for multiple reasons. The first is he was a murderer. So his family, forgive me if I've told this story before, it won't be the first time probably, and it won't be the last. He was very wealthy. He was born into a wealthy family. And then his father died, and his aunt came in and basically made Milarepa and his mom slaves and took all of their wealth and all of their stuff and just basically fucked them over and was like, fuck you, get out of here. You're slaves. Like, we don't even want you anymore. So Milarepa's mom was like, hey, this sucks balls. So can you learn black magic and get revenge for the family? And he's like, all right, mom, I guess I'll do that. So he did that because he was really good boy, and he learned black magic and employed it and murdered everyone. And then he was like, oh shit, this doesn't feel good. I murdered everyone. They were my family. What do I do? So he went to, oh, hold on, getting a call. He went to, I'm just going to have to roll with these calls as they come in. Whenever I'm talking about this shit, people inevitably call me. This is what happens. So Milarepa felt really bad about what's going on, and basically was like, hey, I'm going to the woods because I'm going to just be a bad person in the woods alone. And he encountered along his way his teacher, his guru, Marpa. And Marpa was like, yeah, like he had heard, Milarepa was like, please, can I study with you? And he's like, nah, like you are definitely too fucked up to study with me. So he pleads and eventually he gets accepted as his student. And as he's accepted as his student, Marpa makes him do like a bunch of really shitty things. He's like kind of objectively a dick to him. He's just like, do this. And he's like, no, I don't want to. He's like, no, do it. And so he does it. And he's like, build this huge stone temple. I know I've told this before. Then he smashes it down. He's like, why'd you build it there? It's supposed to be built there, like 10 feet away. So he builds it again, smashes it down. He's like, why'd you build it there? I told you it was supposed to be here. It was like the original spot. So he builds it again. And after I think 3 times, he finally like after that, and this takes like hundreds of years or something, and he finally like is like, okay, you get it. And he's like, oh, you were purifying. I get it. I get it. Like through this, I get it. So Milarepa goes on to be one of the greatest yogis ever. And what he does is he transmutes and takes all of the Dharma, like the way of being, the true eternal wisdom of Buddhism, all crystallized, the entire like vehicle and body of it. And he just spontaneously like goes from place to place and sings it. He doesn't, he does, and he's like, he's very clear about his singing voice isn't good. So I don't jump into that aspect of it, but he'll jump in and he'll just like start singing a song. They'll be like, "Hey, Milarepa," will go to a village, and they'll be like, "Hey, Milarepa, like, can you go to this Snow Peak mountain? Because like, there's a demoness there. She's a rock demon and like demoness, and like it sucks, and we can't go there, and it's nice, but it's all like shitty because they're there." And he's like, "All right, I'll go there." And they're like, "Can we come?" He's like, "No, it's too dangerous. You doofuses, don't do that." So then he goes up to the mountain, and all these demons are like, "Fuck you, Milarepa, you fucking stupid motherfucker! Like, why do you think you're here? We're gonna throw shit at you." And he's like, "Oh, all right, let me just sit down, make a camp." And he starts just like singing them songs. He's like, "Hey, did you know there's nothing to be afraid about, and everything is okay, and it's all gonna work out, and listen to these words that I'm saying, and you'll realize that it's true, and I'm not trying to trick you." And like then the lower level demons are like, "Okay, we get it. Bye bye." Then he's like, "Oh, like he moves up a little bit the mountain, and he's like, "Oh, there's these other like bigger, badder demons, just like a video game." He's like, "Hey, like, here's this." And they're like, "Fuck you, Milarepa. We heard that stupid song you sang before. That song's fucking lame. Fuck you." And they throw all this shit at him. And like, "Oh no, it's Milarepa. He's getting shit thrown at him." And he's like, "All right, let me get another song." And he's like, "Okay." And he does this like happily. Like he's not even perturbed at all. He's just like, "Oh, okay, I got to sing a different song." And he's like, "Yeah, like, you're doing it all with your mind. It's not a big deal. Like if you listen to the words that I'm saying." And he always thanks Marpa before every song, just to be clear. He always thanks his guru. He always is like, "Thank you, Marpa. You're the best. Thank you for teaching me. I appreciate it. Now I'm going to sing these awesome songs." So anyway, he'll go through like this entire mountain, like this dungeon, clearing it like a fucking dungeon crawler. And he gets to like the demoness, and this one. This is what is it? Lashi Mountain, Snow Peak Mountain? I forget it. I read this a long time ago. By a long time ago, I mean like a month ago. And so he gets to this, and this rock demoness is like, "I'm the worst. I'm gonna fuck your shit up." And he's like, "All right, I gotta sing the best song now." So he sings the song, and he's like, like your love, and when you wake up to it, you're free and you can do whatever you want, and you'll be super happy, and you won't be trapped in this rock demoness body, and like you'll feel really great all the time. And she's like, "Nah, fuck you. I won't feel great. This is who I am." And he's like, "Yeah, but you're really not. You're kind of nothing. You're kind of everything. And like just listen to what I'm saying, and you're good." So she's like, "Oh, I maybe." He's like, "No, no, no, like please, just like, oh, it's pretty cool. Like you're gonna like it. Like it's pretty awesome. Like it's pretty cool." And she's like, "Oh, all right." And so he beats the rock demoness, and then the whole mountain's cleared, and then he goes back to the village, and the villagers are like, "Oh, thanks, Milarepa. That's so awesome that you did that. Will you stay here forever now? Because we want you to, because that's the best thing." And he's like, "Yeah, I actually have to go to other places and do this shit. So I'm gonna like, give you some food, and I'll sing you a song about how you have the power to do this, and the mountain's clear, but the mountain's just an allegory for who you are. So you do it." So he basically just does, that's the Milarepa story. So that's another energy that I've been jumping into, because that's a fucking badass energy. You just go around singing people's songs of how awesome they are. I'm into that. So, what you do, like I said, to bring this back down to this reality where we are here, is you jump into the state of consciousness that are mapped out to us by, if you want to personify them as Milarepa. And listen, Tibetan Buddhism is only like 800 something years old. So these are told as stories that actually happened, not as just allegories. And that these are oral and lineages that like this shit happened. And I believe that. And if someone says, "Well, you know what, like even in the secret parts of Dzogchen, like they don't even really believe that," well, then maybe that's their reality. I don't want to say they don't know what they're talking about, but that shit's real. It's real in this world. All this stuff can happen. The only stuff that prevents us from seeing that is our beliefs. You can do it in the dream world. This world is a dream. You're going to start seeing some crazy shit that just seems like matter of fact. That is fucking magic. Our phones are fucking magic. If you brought a phone back to someone 50 years ago, even like 200 years ago, they'd fucking burn you. Fucking demon person. What the fuck is that? And you'd be like, "Where do I plug it in? only have 42% and I don't know if I can get back. And like everyone's trying to build time machines now. We're doing it. We already have time machines. We're multidimensional beings. Time doesn't exist. Anyway, segue. It's just a segue. So the same way you appropriate states of consciousness related to fearlessness, Athena is a great one for fearlessness. You ride their energetic blueprints towards the states you want, but do not get caught up in God and deities. So that's not unity consciousness. That's not unconditional love. The gods are constantly fighting with each other. They were constantly fighting the Titans, and they overthrew them. And then before that, there was the father of the mother of the Titans, Uranus and Gaia. It's like a whole thing. So like, don't stay there for too long. And like, you can even look at like politics as like a sub level of, they're like sub deities and celebrities or deities. It's like whatever you want to look at it as, it's fine. But do this in your own head and witness the power of feeling like Hermes or Zeus, the boon giver. Give boons to yourself. Give boons to your friends and loved ones. See how that feels. It feels fucking amazing. Do that shit. Anyway, let's get to the music of the spheres and how this relates. The music of the spheres. Do we know what this is? I pretended like I knew what it was for a long time. And intuitively, of course, I knew what it was, but I didn't intellectually and conceptually get the origins of the music of the spheres. So, music of the spheres, the harmony of the spheres, there's a lot of different ways to go with this. We're just going to focus on Pythagoras and kind of the Greek idea, because a lot of the gods I've been doing, even though I just mentioned Milarepa's Tibetan, the Greek gods are planets, and astrology is based on, it's good shit. So Pythagoras was the first one to essentially write down and say, hey, I think the sun and the moon and the stars all have these vibratory frequencies and they emit this sound, this deep hum, and it energetically affects us. And so some people were like, that's obviously not true because like we don't hear it. So shut up, Pythagoras. And then he's like, oh, and the people in his school were like, well, yeah, that's because when you're born, the exact opposite frequency is embedded in your consciousness and your mind. So it tunes it out. So that's why you don't hear it. And just to be clear, most people, including Johann Kepler in 1619, were like, hey, this is inaudible. It's not actual music, but it is this inner harmony and knowingness that you can listen to and feel, that is possible. But in Greek mythology, this was only audible to the gods. So now you see why one might want to jump into God or gods energy, because then we start to hear this music of the spheres. So what do we think is this music of the spheres? Aristotle came out because Plato would talk about this, and Socrates, he would say what Socrates said, and the Neoplatonic solids. Do we know those? Learn those. They're important. But basically, you want to, Aristotle was like, hey, this is nonsense. This is bullshit. These planets are fucking huge. We know that now. We're not dummies. So if there are these huge planets, why is there no sound? How come we can't hear it? It's obviously there's not true. We don't hear it, so it can't be true. And that's Aristotle for you. That's the logic. That's the rationality stepping in and saying, hey, dumbasses, that's a nice idea, real poetic, but it doesn't make any fucking sense, dinguses. And it's like, oh, Aristotle. Oh, Aristotle, why you gotta be like that? So there's one school of thought that says this is nonsense, and another school of thought that says, no, this is exactly what's going on. And there's actually this beautiful synthesis that happens and is revealed between music, geometry, astronomy, math, all of these things, right? Johann Kepler thought of this. Some of the best scientific minds in our world that form the foundational elements of what we believe some shit that most scientific materialists now would be like, that person was a fucking idiot. It's just funny. It's just funny, isn't it? So anyway, there's this music of the spheres, right? There's this perfect combination of music and harmony that we can tune into. And this is the ascension process. This is the evolutionary process. This is the function of being a human or having consciousness, if one were to say that in this reality. This is what we're doing. We're constantly tuning into and listening to the music of the spheres. Now, if you're me, I'm not just satisfied with hearing the music of the spheres. It's great. I love it. It's incredible. I don't even know how else to describe it. However, I would actually like to pull it out of there and actually make it real music, which is why I'm a musician and make music. And it's really fun to do that. But this is what we're all doing all of the time. And I don't want to make it seem like it's this process that we only do for other people. We're doing it for ourselves, right? We wake up to our desires. We have this objective awareness of what we want. And then we feed it to the subjective awareness of ourselves, right? The deepest part. This is what these imaginal techniques are doing, right? They are subjective. We are objectively feeding ourselves facts that are objectively untrue, right? Some of your imaginal stuff that you want, if you feel depressed and you're imagining a state of non-depression, that is objectively not true, right? Like you're depressed. So like it's not true. But if you can feel it, and then it starts to happen, well, that's how you remove it. But that you're denying the objective reality of what's going on. That's denying our senses. It's hard as fuck to do. Pain, suffering, mental ruminations, reviewing. Hey, fucking Mercury and Scorpio about to go retrograde in a few weeks energy. That shit'll fuck you up, but it only fucks you up to the degree that you believe that you are depressed. And this just is, again, I'm getting a lot of questions, and know that there is a Q&A episode coming this week because the questions I'm getting are pretty good. And a lot of people are in a lot of pain who are getting in touch with me, or people have manifested or created amazing things for themselves, but then they snap back and it collapses. And they're like, what the fuck? Why? Why does this always happen to me? So I will answer those questions. I know I've been writing back to the emails and saying, I'm going to get to those. That'll be this week. But essentially, we move out of those states to the degree that we believe we can. And we do that technique wise by serving up things that objectively are denied by our senses, but believe and feel them to be true imaginally, serve them to our subconscious, the subjective, the feminine, and lo and behold, they begin to happen. And you need to have faith, right? To hold to your vision, right? To see something in a vision and walk through the valley of doubt requires faith. And that's like, I don't know how else to say that. And faith is nothing. It's just having an imagination, right? Praying is imagination plus faith. So that's how we pray. And we are constantly praying. We're summoning forth our exact states of consciousness. They're reflected back to us in the world. So I just gave a reading with my dear friend, Stephen Campman. And there's a lot of lessons in our interactions with other people and what they can teach us. This is why I say Trump, like when you can get to the point, if you're a progressive, if you're like someone you see like someone do something that you discern isn't good and you cannot identify with it, like you should love the fuck out of the people who share opposite viewpoints as you in this reality. You should love the shit out of them because honestly, they're teaching you so much by showing you where your work is. And, that can seem like a cop out if you're not ready to hear that, but it's not. And when you do it, you'll fucking realize how powerful it is. And it's not some passive, wishy-washy bullshit. It's like, oh my God, this is actually where real power comes from. Incredible. So that's what we're doing with these techniques. We are appropriating states of consciousness. You can be a god. You can be an animal. Okay. I don't mean animal in a bad way. Sometimes it's amazing to be primal. Go howl at the moon. It was a full moon. Go get in touch with your animalistic nature. There's no judgment with any of this shit. It's you anyway. But there are some very helpful energies that can come from gods, right? Knowing Poseidon, Neptune is the ruler of the deep, psychic stuff, occult stuff, unconscious dreams, knowing where he's positioned in your chart, knowing that if you need some more water energy because you don't have enough feeling aspect or your feelings are out of control and maybe you need to balance them out with some earth energy, go find your elemental breakdowns for deities that you need and jump into those states of consciousness. Meet me there. I do this shit all the time. If you need help, ask me the questions and I'll tell you how I did it. So like I said, I've been jumping into Athena, Milarepa, Hermes in terms of communication, Zeus in terms of boon giving, both to myself and other people. Who else have I been? I think that's, I think that's, I think that's it right now. Maybe Apollo. Maybe there was a little Apollo when I went to the city. You got to have the warrior spirit when you go into the city of demons, which is what New York City is. I love New York City. It's my favorite place. But it's also a city of demons. You got to have a warrior spirit when you go there to not get energetically drained. All of my friends who live in California, whenever they come to uh, New York or just anywhere that's not New York, they're like, oh yeah, like I just feel so drained whenever I go there. It's like so hard. It's like, yeah, well, it's fucking crazy and you don't know how to deal with that shit. It'll drain you. But if you do, you get fed by it. And you know how you get in touch with dealing with that? You play. It's a fucking play. You're the producer. You're the writer. You're the director. You're the actor. Okay? That's what's going on. Actors intuitively get this. That's why they're stars. They've acted out. It's no mystery that the profession of acting has led to so many ascensions for stars. It's so funny, all these words are there. But of course, like they are really good at appropriating states of consciousness and recognizing that their ability to do so creates their reality. And it doesn't even like people be like, well, yeah, they're also like really attractive. No, not all of them are super attractive conventionally at all. Some of them look super fucking weird, but it doesn't matter. They know what they're doing. They're doing it with their minds. Okay. We did it. I think we got to the end of this episode. It's weird, I know. I'm talking about jumping into deities, but you can still be a normal person. I watched the Miami Dolphins lose to the Redskins in dramatic fashion. It was hilarious, and thank God they lost because we need that number one pick. Otherwise, this is just an exercise in futility, which is what being a Miami Dolphins fan has been up until this point. And now there is a method to the madness. And let that be the metaphor. Let the Miami Dolphins be an allegory and metaphor for your life. You can flail, you can suffer, you can suck, you can be just average and be unfulfilled and be middle of the pack, or you can embrace the suctitude so hard, go deep into every fucking dark aspect of the worst, just blah, 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 bad shit. Go through it. Realize it's totally unsubstantial. It's only a year. It's only temporary for the Dolphins. They're gonna be no one knows what the fuck I'm talking about. I don't care. It's only temporary for the Dolphins. They're going down. They're going to the depths. They're going to that deep unconscious water. They're going to experience. I hope, gosh, if they go 0-16, oh well, right? But I think one win is good. And they're going to go there, but they're going to emerge with the plan in place to get all of the talent, everything they've ever wanted. And I'm fucking with it. And you know what's happened this year? I don't give a shit when they lose. It's liberating. It's amazing. Fucking love it. Why was I talking about football? I don't know. It's good. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to this shit and be like, why did I end with talking about football? Oh yeah, the allegory for life. That's you. Go down like a dolphin into the unconscious waters. I actually had a vision of this. This is weird. I was doing a sound meditation 2 months ago, something like that, and I was trying to imagine shit and I couldn't do it. I'm really good at this shit. I couldn't imagine what I was trying to imagine. Every time I would try to imagine something, I'd have this vision of being a dolphin. And these gongs are so loud. They're like, "Bong!" It's like resonant tones. And I kept doing it. And I kept being, I was this dolphin. I'm like, I'm this dolphin underwater. I don't know why. I don't know why this is happening, but I can't not be this dolphin. And for like, I don't know, an hour or something, I'm this dolphin. Just like every time I'm trying to imagine something, this intrudes, and I didn't know what it meant at the time. Then my friend Sean from Very Ape, Sean Dunn, was like, yo, I've been connecting with the dolphin. Then he sends me this picture of blotter acid with the Miami Dolphins logo. Dolphins are under Neptune, Poseidon's domain. They are the navigators of the the underwater, the unconscious. They also are playful as fuck. They also can be horny as fuck, but they're playful, right? On the Threads of Fate, one of my favorite decks that I use now, the dolphin, and the word associated with on the card is play. So that's what you want to be. Be a playful dolphin. Have a good time as you're approaching the unconscious. Get in touch with Neptune, ruler of the seas. It's worth it, right? Go through your Little Mermaid adventure. Go through your Moana adventure. We watched Moana again this week. I've spoken about it before, but Eli is, as he grows up, he understands more aspects of it. And he was so cute. He was just singing it afterwards. So fucking good. Moana is so good. It's the best. We'll see if I can get through 5 episodes without mentioning Moana. I doubt that will ever happen. Anyway, learn your platonic solids. The whole world is made of them. The tetrahedron, the cube, the octahedron, the dodecahedron, the icosahedron, right? Is that what it's called? Isosahedron? Is that what it is? Probably. Yeah. Learn those. I'm going to be learning them. Learn math. Learn about numbers. Learn about gods. Learn about all this shit that makes sense to you because we are entering mystery school. You know how the Greeks used to have mystery school? You know how they used to go put people through these mysteries, the Eleusinian mysteries, and is it Eleusinian or Eleusinian? I don't know. And they would give them the kykeon and this psychedelic brew. This is life now. You don't need the brew. If you want it, you can do it. It's fine. It's great. It's cool. But this is what we're doing. This podcast is the brew. This podcast is the kykeon. So if you gravitate towards these mystery school things, the wisdom of the ancients in a practical, real way, you're in the right place. Jump into that god energy. Become Hercules. Demigods too. You can do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. Find one that's cool as fuck. Then write to me and tell me, oh my God, I jumped in to this god or goddess energy and it's the fucking best. I can't believe it's real. Holy shit. How is this real? I don't know. It just is. This is how it works. I mean, I do know how because it's us. They're all us. We project them outwards. The inverse is true. If we think they exist outwardly, then they exist within us. And if that's the case, then we've projected them outwards and we can tap into them whenever we want. It's fucking incredible. Okay. Readings are open. We talk about this stuff. We're helping people. I don't know. It's not coaching. It's conversation. If you have questions, I'll answer them, but you will help yourself. I promise you. And the cards and astrology helps with that. So if you're interested, go do that stuff. Whitma is going on October 18th, 2019. If you're hearing it this week and you're in New York, just go get tickets at whitmalive.com. I have a referral code. I'll put it up in this episode. Use it, don't use it, but just get the tickets is the most important thing because it's going to be a fun time. I'm doing like a 20-minute thing on imagination. Have no idea what I'm going to say yet. When I agreed to it, I thought I knew what I was going to say. Have no idea what I'm going to say yet, but it's going to be something. It's going to be fun. It's going to be cool. So that is it for this episode. Rate and review, share it with a friend, have fun, share your experiences. Yeah, that's what we got going on. I will see you in a couple of days. We have a guest and we have some more solo casts coming. I know that for sure. Hope you enjoyed this one. Happy imagining. Coming down, you stabilize it with the 7s from the heaven when the 6s from the head, man.
666.
Devil in the house, Capricorn with your horn. Don't be with any doubt, man. Coming down, you stabilize it with the 7s from the heaven when the 6s from the head, man.
666.
Devil in the house, Capricorn with your horn. Don't be with any doubt, man. Sequence of 12 make you think twice, man. Think about your life and think about it double time. When you go down, we'll break it down. I'll make you see what I'm talking about. Now we go. Start with number 12, dodecahedron.